Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 160. I am Brendan.
And I'm Nate.
Hey, he's here again. Yay! He found time in his schedule to grace us with his presence, which is pretty fucking cool.
The long-awaited return.
Yeah, we are going to talk a UFC fight night, Santos versus Hill. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover the rest of the fights on the main card. If you're looking for the prelim stuff, that's in the next video. All right, episode 161, but we're going to cover Geoff Neal, Vicente Luque, Mohammed Usman versus Zach Pauga, both of the Ultimate Fighter finale, Juliana Miller versus Brogan Walker, and then the rest of the main card here. Before we get started, real quick, if you like MMA, you like podcasts about MMA, if you like the UFC, PFL, Bellator, 1FC, I cover all of those things here. I make 2 or 3 videos every single week, and I appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel because then you'll know when the next video is coming out. Let's get started. Let's talk about the main event first here. Thiago Santos losing to Jamahal Hill via 4th round TKO. What are your takeaways on the fight here?
For me, disappointing because I was always a big Thiago Santos fan.
Me too.
I was someone, if you listen to a lot of our earlier ones, who adamantly thought he had a shot at beating Jones if he didn't, essentially tear his knee during that fight.
Yep, and also a lot of people still think that he won that fight.
Yeah, even with a torn knee, it was still a very close fight. So
yeah, absolutely.
It was disappointing but I mean, he gassed out. He went for a lot of takedowns, which was surprising because I didn't. I know he can, but it's not usually his MO for how he's going to win a fight.
Yeah,
and just game plan didn't work out for him. That's kind of what it seemed like when I was watching it.
Yeah, so in the first round here, we can just go. I'll put your face up next to the stats here. If you look at the first round, it was 10-9 in favor of Santos as far as significant strikes. Neither guy landed anything of note. Hill landed when he was his back was to the fence, and I think Hill might have done more damage, but with the striking numbers being so close and the fact that Santos had a little bit of control, I could see that going either way. I gave the first round to Hill, though. Second round, I also ended up giving to Hill. I felt like the Santos was landing like some good shots to the body. He was more stationary, though, and he kept getting caught, which was kind of the issue going forward. So I gave that second round to Hill. You can see here on the striking numbers, 16-31 in favor of Hill as far as significant strikes go. Round 3 was a much closer round. 8-9, still in favor of Hill, but this is where Santos really started to impose his grappling a little bit, getting more control. Hill stopped 2 takedowns via grabbing the fence, which was really shitty because there was there was a warning for the second one. The first time didn't get caught, and then he ended up grabbing the gloves, which stopped Santos from completing a takedown. And at one point, Hill struck Santos with a low blow. I think that was the first round. He struck Santos with a low blow, and then they were separated, as you do. And then when they were returned, Santos wasn't returned to his advantageous position, being in the clinch, pressing Hill against the cage. Not that I think that all of those had an ultimate effect on the outcome here, because you can see in the last round here, 40-19, Santos was just stationary. He was super tired. You could tell he was exhausted. Hill's cardio held out longer than Santos did. And, Hill got cracked a few times, but he's got a good chin. And it's just anybody with cardio and a chin is poison for Thiago Santos. It just is. Either it makes the fight boring or ultra exciting and a one-way beatdown. In the form of Santos kicking the crap out of the other guy. So it didn't work out in his favor. I think Santos has had, let's look at his record here. He's just had a rough go of it lately.
Yeah.
If you look at his record, he is, 1-5 in his last 6 fights. Those 5, one of them is a questionable loss to John Jones, obviously. But here's the guys he was facing. John Jones, Glover Teixeira, former champion, Glover Teixeira. Alexander Rakic, title. He was going to be a title challenger, but his knee blew out against Alex Smith. Shit happens. He beats Johnny Walker. That's a good win. he loses to Magomed Ankalaev. He's like in the title picture right now, and now he loses to Jamahal Hill, a young up and comer with like pretty explosive striking. So none of those are bad losses. It's unfortunate that they did go that way. It's just he's never been a big light heavyweight.
Yep.
Okay, he's never been a big light heavyweight. So as far as grappling goes, if you're going to be a lighter guy in your division and be effective at grappling, you need to have either an extensive history with muscle memory built in and built-in cardio to handle that kind of stuff and being able to out-position and out-leverage your opponent, or you just need to be bigger. You just can't. You can't do it when you're the smaller guy consistently, and Santos isn't known for his grappling. He isn't known for his cardio, and those two things kind of took him out of this fight.
Yeah, but I'm going to give him a little benefit of the doubt because, wow, all the actions that Hill took didn't necessarily change the outcome. It does stack up.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially, when you're making a change in your fight plan, because maybe it was a change. Maybe he was feeling like the first 2 rounds were a little on the edge and he wasn't getting what he needed to. So he started trying to go for takedowns. And then if those are stopped by illegal action, such as grabbing a cage, how much does that take the wind out of your sail?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly right. So the problem I have with those illegal things, and I don't want to harp on it too long. I've gone on tangents a lot about these. It's just they weren't the most egregious ones. It's just they happened, and the guy who was committing those fouls ended up winning. So it doesn't look good, and no one's ever going to bring it up because they didn't happen directly before the win, and they didn't lead directly to the win, and even when nobody gives a shit. It's the Wikipedia record. That's all anybody cares about is they look at is it a W or is it an L before his name? That's the only thing anybody cares about. People have a very short memory, and I'm guilty of that too. Like, I can't remember every bad decision that's ever happened. And I pay attention to all these fights.
But in the end, even with that, I don't think it would have turned out any different. It didn't seem like Thiago had anything in his tank that was going to change it after the 3rd round, even if those takedowns were successful.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. That being said, all right, so he called out Yuri Prohashka, who is the current champion. So he called him out. I'm looking at the rankings before this weekend. Obviously, Santos was number 6 right here, and then Jamahal Hill was number 10. So does this put him at number 6? Is he going to jump ahead Reyes and Oezdemir and Paul Craig? Maybe.
I don't think so.
I mean, I think he could. Reyes just hasn't fought. Oezdemir's coming off a win over Paul Craig. So those two traded spots. I wouldn't. It's hard because now Hill's going to jump. I mean, I could see him being like number 7, taking the place of Reyes, or number 8, and then bouncing Oezdemir down 1. But I don't think he's trading spots with Thiago.
Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts as well. I don't think he's going to jump up that much, but maybe 7, 8.
Yeah. And then, so next fight for him, he said he'll take Jan Blachowicz, which I don't see happening because Blachowicz just came off of a win, an injury stoppage, but it's a win nonetheless. And he's vying for the title against Prohashka. I think that's a good fight. I think that's bound to happen. I think Glover Teixeira, Magomed Ankalaev is a good fight for him. I like that. They're both. I don't want to take away 2 challengers, but Rakic is on the mend. I don't know for how long. Smith is just coming off a loss. It doesn't make sense for him to fight Hill right now. Oezdemir's coming off a win, and if he wants to keep on track, I mean, that would be Hill fighting somebody who is potentially lower ranked than him, but that's a good fight. Reyes is always a good fight. I just don't know where he's at. I don't know if he's scheduled to fight or anything like that right now. What do you think's next for Hill? How many more fights before he gets a title? Do you think he deserves one right now?
No.
Yeah, me either.
Now there's a couple people I still have ahead of him for
Yep.
getting a title shot. Like I think I would give Glover Teixeira a rematch before I'd give Hill one right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then
Yeah, so that would be.
what do you think's next for Santos?
That's a rough one. I mean, 105 is never a good look, regardless of division, but especially in light heavyweight, it's not quite heavyweight to where 3 wins and basically you're back in title contention, but it's still.
It kind of is.
Glover proved in the past that you could recover from this type of he was kind of at that place in his career before he ended up getting his title shot. So he had, worked his way back up the rankings.
Career-wise, I'll agree with you, but fight style and how that leads and lends itself to continuing your career, I think, is vastly different.
Yeah, because Thiago doesn't have the kind of longevity of style of fighting that Glover does.
Nope.
He's
very dependent on explosiveness.
It doesn't get better with age for him,
No.
so that's going to be the hard part.
I mean, I wouldn't mind him fighting someone like Reyes. I wouldn't mind him fighting someone like Ozdemir. I think that's a fine fight. Him fighting Paul Craig, if Paul Craig's trying to...
Maybe Anthony Smith?
They fought before. And I mean, that's a fine rematch. I'm not against it.
Yeah. That's what... They're not saying they're both at similar places in their career, but I mean, they're both coming off losses.
Yeah, I mean, Magomed Ankalaev beating Smith the way he did last weekend, and the fact that Blachowicz has a win and he, his only loss is for the title recently, and he was a previous title holder. I could see him getting a title shot. Teixeira fighting, Ankalaev, and then maybe Hill fighting someone in here like a Reyes or an Ozdemir. I don't see him jumping all the way up here just yet. Like, his next fight, I still think is going to be in the top 10. I don't think it's going to be in the top 5.
I concur.
Sweet. All right. You got anything else for that fight? I don't.
No. Yeah, no. There was nothing super spectacular about it.
All right. Let's talk about Geoff Neal versus Vicente Luque, and what a banger this fight was. It's just... But this has been happening the past couple weeks, where one fight, it depends on which order you watch these fights in. If you are the person who goes in afterwards and you just watch, you go on to ESPN Plus and then you just watch each single fight, there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. But it changes the experience when you're watching things in order. So when I watched Geoff Neal versus Vicente Luque, the skill level in striking is through the roof, and it really puts in perspective everybody else on the card, especially the fight beforehand and after. So going from Geoff Neal to Thiago Santos' fight, it was a little bit weird, and you can really see that even at light heavyweight, the skills just they've not advanced like the lighter weight classes. That being said, Vicente Luque, it was a great dude. This fight was fantastic. Geoff Neal ends up getting the TKO finish. You can call it a KO if you want. KO finish in the 3rd round. What a great fight.
This is one of the best fights I've seen in a couple months.
Yeah. Neal landed.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Dude, it's so freaking good. I love watching high-skilled anything, regardless if it's grappling or if it's grappling or striking, but especially striking. It scratches an itch. You know what I mean? There's a few things like sloppy heavyweights.
Technically good striking.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But there's a few different things that scratch an itch, right? It's like technically good striking, technical grappling, and like rolling back and forth. Really good like wrestling and chain wrestling. And then on the complete opposite side, just like an exhausted, all-out slugfest, like where guys are just throwing sloppy shots at each other. That's fun. It's just on the edge of the sloppiness. That's rarely the case. Usually it ends up being like a sloppy garbage grappling match, and nobody wants to watch that shit. Like I don't like that either. This was not that. This was a fantastic fight. The first round I had going to Not that it matters because, Neal ends up getting the win anyway. And he led in striking in the first round, 52-30. And I gave him that first round. I felt like he did land some really good shots. Luque was having trouble unleashing. And even though he landed some of his own, Neal actually dropped Luque with he almost dropped him once with a left hand, and then 15 left hands later ends up dropping him. So clearly a 10-9. I don't think it was a 10-8. Luque landed 30 fucking significant strikes. That's not a 10-8 round.
It was a solid exchange back and forth.
Yeah. Luque landed some really good leg kick, right kicks to the body and upstairs, and it was kind of slowing Neal down in the second round, and it kind of played out in the striking numbers here, 51-40 in favor of Luque. It was a really close round, but I felt like Luque did more damage in this one. So going into the third, I had it, 1-1. So this was not an inconsequential round, and Neal was he just turned it up. I don't know if this is more on Neal being great or Luque not showing up, but the first and third round, Luque did not look like himself.
No.
He looked off. He wasn't committing to his strikes. And in the second round, he was the one making Neal look weird. And because of the first and third round, we both know that Neal was clearly on. He was here. He showed up to fight. So we know that Luque did what was necessary in that second round to slow him down. But he wasn't super aggressive. He just did things to slow Neal down. So I am hesitant to say that this performance from Neal shows how good of a fighter he is, and I'm more on the edge of Luque seemed off.
It was a great night for Neal, and it wasn't the best Luque we've seen show up.
Great
it wasn't
performance.
The best Luque we've seen show up to the fight.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not trying to take anything away from Neal. I think he had a great performance. It's just when it comes to determining his improvements as a fighter and where he goes from here and how he ends up turning, he's vying for a title just like everyone else. He's only got 2 losses in the UFC, and they're to Stephen Thompson and Neil Magny. He's an excellent fighter, but we've seen what happens when he gets shut down, either striking wise against Stephen Thompson, who has a win over both these guys, by the way. He just kind of can't get his game off, and we saw it in the second round here. But I don't know if he just made the adjustments and just ate through them, or Luque just wouldn't commit and didn't want to throw what he needed to. But Neal with 2 wins again here, Santiago Ponzinibbio and Vicente Luque. The second one, this most recent one via KO here. It's hard to deny him. I mean, the people ahead of him are, he's outside the top 10 looking in right now. And Vicente Luque was number 6. I definitely see him jumping into the top 10 here. Are we going to, what do you think's next for, what were your takeaways from this fight? What did you see from Neal that you liked or didn't like?
See, that's the hard part, is I don't know that I saw much different from when he fought Stephen Thompson. Because I didn't watch the Neal Magny fight, but that was the last time I saw him. And he's beatable. I just think it's going to be very matchup based. He's got good cardio, he has good striking, but there's also a lot of people above him that have better striking, in my opinion, and better cardio. And kind of the skill sets he's good in, there's a lot of people that I still think are better in those skill sets above him overall and individually. So I think it's still going to be hard for him to crack into the top 5. I think he's still got some either development, or I'd like to see another fight with him, not Stephen Thompson again, maybe Leon Edwards, something like that.
Well, Leon Edwards is getting the title shot. He's fighting Usman next. That's just happening.
But if Leon Edwards doesn't win that would
okay. So for me, looking at,
I know he said something about fighting Gilbert Burns, but I don't think he's going to be very successful against Gilbert Burns.
Me either. No, that's the thing. Is I'm all for him calling these people out, so we can look above him. You got Bilal Mohammed, who he beat already. You got Gilbert Burns. You got Chimaev, who in my opinion, would be a fine challenge. The problem is Chimaev is supposed to be fighting Nate Diaz for some reason. That's happening. Jorge Masvidal is a non-factor here in the top 10. He doesn't belong in the top 10, and he's only fighting for money fights now, so it's kind of bullshit. Shavkat, I don't know who Rachmanov is fighting next, but whoever he fights next, which I think he's supposed to fight Thompson.
Who's Sean Brady gonna fight next?
That's a good. Well, see, here's the thing. I think that's a cakewalk for Brady. That's a cakewalk for Brady.
But I think that would be. But that's a good. Like,
that's a good fight.
No,
absolutely.
Closer to him in the rankings,
yep.
So I think maybe that would be a better fight for determining who should be higher up in the top 10.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I'm down with that. I think that's a great call. Sean Brady hasn't fought anyone in a while. I don't know. He might be scheduled to fight someone though. And then here's the thing though. If you looking at this top 10, we've got Usman, heavy wrestler, Covington, heavy wrestler, Leon Edwards, good anti-wrestling and very good striking, arguably better than Geoff Neal. Chimaev, heavy wrestler, Gilbert Burns, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and good striking. Bilal Muhammad can wrestle his ass off in crazy cardio. And yes, he does have a win over Muhammad, but I would argue that a rematch might be different. Stephen Thompson, he has a loss to. And Jorge Masvidal, like I said, non-factor. Sean Brady, crazy wrestler. Shavkat Rachmanov, everything, including good wrestling.
Yep.
So he better shore up his takedown defense. Otherwise, he's going to have a real rough time in the top 10 here. There's a reason why he got bounced out of it to begin with. And, losing to Neal Magny the way he did doesn't show me that he has improved at all. So I got to see him against the wrestler again before I call for him getting close to the top 5. All right,
I concur.
All right, let's talk about Mohammed Usman versus Zach Pauga. Interesting fight for a lot of reasons. Usman getting the win here. This was the tough heavyweight finale, the Ultimate Fighter heavyweight finale. Looking at these stats, so the first round I easily had to Pauga. I think he did an excellent job. There was plenty of action, but not a lot of contact, to be honest with you. 31 of those significant strikes landed for him, and then 9 of Usman's. Also, Usman, I believe, is the brother of Kamaru. Muhammad is.
Yep.
I think that's his
little
brother. Yeah, little.
Heavyweight little brother.
Yeah. And then after the first round, my takeaway was pretty clear. Pauga was clearly the better technician with a variety of attack and combination. Usman was just throwing big hooks, and that was pretty much it. But, one of those, that big left hook landed in the second round and put him right the fuck out. So, I can say all I want about who the better striker is, but, when someone lands with those big hands, that's kind of how that shit goes. Before I go in on this one, because I have a few things, what are your takeaways from this fight?
It was a good show for Usman, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how he starts faring at other heavyweights as he works his way through the division. I don't know. I'm hesitant on getting on a hype train though. I didn't see anything from him that was like, oh yeah, he's going to run through the heavyweight division. Okay.
You mean swinging big giant hooks isn't showing you that he's going to be a champion at heavyweight? Because Francis Ngannou did the exact same shit, and he's the champion. So,
yeah, I don't know that he's got that Francis Ngannou energy though. Yeah, it wasn't like a spectacular like when Francis Ngannou was throwing hooks and when he was knocking people out. There were some of those that looked effortless though. It was like. That didn't even look like he was trying to knock him out. He just connected. It would annihilate people. Throwing giant swinging hooks. Yeah. Like I said, but it's also heavyweight, so that could also get you 3 wins in a row. You never know.
Yeah. So seeing him against someone so I'm not going to throw him into the rankings, like having him fight anybody here in the rankings yet necessarily. But looking at the rankings, I see a lot of people he can beat. Like a lot of people he can beat.
It'll definitely be very matchup based.
Yeah, if he like even someone like here's the thing. Blagoy Ivanov, who is ranked number 15 still, he has a crazy chin, good cardio, and he's a decent grappler, and he wants to get in your face. So, you want to test someone's cardio, you put him against Ivanov. Augusto Sakai, I think he just lost, right? Against Pavlovich. And we'll talk about that. Yes. Or no, Sergei Spivac. We'll talk about that in a second. So he's probably not going to be ranked. So, and they both fought on the same card. Him against Augusto Sakai might make sense. He's got the last name of Usman, so he's going to have a little bit of hype behind him regardless of what happens. He's got the physique. He hits hard. I could see him getting fast-tracked. I think if he has another impressive knockout win, especially if it's against someone who's just like a heavyweight mainstay or someone who was recently in the rankings, I think he easily could be thrown in, and then one more knockout win puts him, in the... Here's the thing. I don't know what he was going to do against a wrestler. I think seeing him against a wrestler or someone with like really good striking who can hang with him is going to be a problem, but it's really early. It's so early in his career, it's hard to tell.
Did he come up? I don't know a ton about his background. Did he come up through a wrestling program
not the
his
same.
brother?
Nope.
Nope. All right.
No.
That's true.
He's really athletic. He's very much like he's athletic is probably the best way to put it, but he just hits hard. Right? And at heavyweight, that can get you a long way. I mean, look at Derek Lewis.
So does Derek Lewis. Jinx.
I mean, we saw what happened with Derek. We've seen what happens with Derek Lewis. I say it all the time. He just fought, and I'll just say it one more time. Derek Lewis's strategy of stand around and land one big shot is not a long-term successful strategy for winning and becoming a champion. It is a excellent strategy for becoming a popular fighter. It's going to get you plenty of wins in the heavyweight division. I mean, hell, we saw this with Mark Hunt was not exactly that. He was much more active, so I'm not going to put that on him. So was Roy Nelson. He was more active than that. But we've seen it in the past, these heavyweights who just hit hard, and they all have very similar careers. Francis Ngannou is the exception that proves the rule, in my opinion, of a guy who just hits hard and has managed to be champion. But his last fight against a guy who could stand with him and was holding his own, Ngannou turned into a wrestler. So it's one of those things, man. It's not a successful long-term strategy. Not that you can't be champion, not that you can't be fun and knock people out, but it is not a successful long-term strategy in any division. The only reason it kind of works is because it's heavyweight. And we all know heavyweight has a shallow talent pool. And
often disappointing matchups and skill sets.
Yeah, some of the oldest people in the UFC. All right, let's move on here. Juliana Miller taking on Brogan Walker for the Ultimate Fighter finale. And what was it? Flyweights, right?
Can't remember.
I think it was flyweights. Yeah, flyweights. I'm not crazy. One-way traffic. One-way traffic is what this was, pretty much the entire time, and then it ends with a TKO in favor of Miller. She got a takedown and stayed on top for 4 minutes in the first round. She got on top and took the back. I mean, look at her control time here. It's through the roof. 4 minutes and 30 seconds, 3 minutes in the second round, and then 2 minutes in the third round before she got the finish. I wouldn't even say big brothered Walker. She didn't big brother her. She used skill. She had decent striking. It was okay. It's just Walker didn't belong in there. It looked like anytime that... go ahead.
One person was clearly destined for the UFC, and one probably not going to be very successful.
Well, and I don't want to be too hard on Walker here.
Yeah.
She had her moments. When they were both standing, I felt like she could hit hard and she could hang there with Miller, but Miller found the path of least resistance, and the thing is she found it early. As a fighter, we will often say, oh, he took the easy way out, or, he's boring because he's only grappling and stuff. But this is what happens. A smart fighter finds something that works. If the earlier they find it in a fight, the worse it is for their opponent.
Especially with wrestling.
Yes.
When you're dominating with striking, someone can still throw back and get lucky. But when you're dominating with wrestling,
you ain't getting lucky.
Yeah, like there's nothing to really get lucky about.
No,
You're not gonna throw a wrestle back at someone. So
Ooh, he landed a big wrestle. Oh man, that's fucking hilarious. I never thought about it exactly like you just said, but obviously I know it intuitively. But yes, like you can't throw a wrestle back at someone. Like there's no, it's just hard work. There's no luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Miller looked really good. I felt like she's destined for this division. It is flyweight, so there's more competition now than there was 5 years ago, and that's good. There's plenty of people for her to match up against. I mean, real quick, I know we've been looking at the rankings a lot here, but just looking at the rankings, obviously we got Shevchenko at the top, and it's just a long way off till you drop down and look at the other people. Like Mackenzie Dern isn't in this division anymore. Jessica Andrade bounces back and forth, so she kind of is in this division. You got like when Lauren Murphy is in the top 5 and she's one of the most dominant flyweights right now, we have a problem as far as skill level goes. And it's just the way it is. They don't have a large talent pool. It's a relatively new division.
Valentina Shevchenko has taken a surgical knife to it.
Yeah,
for
and
years.
And she's Shevchenko has the same problem that Rousey had. She has the same problem that she doesn't have the same problem that Demetrius Johnson had, although she has similar problems. The problem with Johnson was, they're smaller guys, and he ended up facing the same people over and over again because
who could eventually figure out something to do against him.
And the problem is, like, he was just so good and so much better, it made everybody look bad. But the men's flyweight division is insanely talented. Always has been. Like, it's top to bottom filled with talent. It's just DJ was just that much better. So this division, I'm always glad we have some new talent. We'll see how Miller turns out. Wasn't too impressed with her striking. Like, I'm gonna compare her to Shevchenko, and just that's how it is. So I think she's newer in her career. Yes, she's 4-1. This is her first UFC fight, obviously winning the Ultimate Fighter finale. I think I can't say anything because I don't know.
Yeah, she could be very successful. Yeah, yes. It's hard to know.
Yeah,
we haven't seen her against other people that have had several fights in the flyweight division. So she's had some good promise.
All right, that's all for that one. All right, Augusto Sakai taking on Sergei Spivac. This fight was it's fun. It had its moments. It was obviously heavyweight. They can be a little droll at sometimes, especially when they're not very active and they're kind of sitting around. First round, Spivac was like just really heavy grappling. Decent ground and pound. Sakai was working his way back to the feet, only to be returned back to the ground. You can see it in their takedowns. 4 of 5 for Spivac, and 4 minutes of control time. Easy 10-9 round for him. And then here in the second round, got the takedown, landed some power shots, got on top, and then ended up getting the TKO victory. Good win for Spivac. We just looked at the rankings. Sakai was ranked number 14 before this weekend. Spivac was not in the rankings, so it's likely that he will be. Sakai will probably get bounced out. Ivanov will get moved up to number 14, and then it is a good bet that Spivac will end up being ranked number 15. You got anything special about that one? Nothing about that blew my hair back.
Yeah, your nice glass of milk heavyweight fight.
Milk toast.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about somebody who I think has a bright future in the UFC here. Terrance McKinney taking on Erick Gonzalez. Great fight while it lasted. It was fantastic. I think McKinney had a really good setback in a healthy way where it wasn't a complete domination where he couldn't learn anything. He was ahead in that fight, in his last fight. He ended up getting the knockout, the rear naked choke, standing rear naked choke in the first round here. But in his last fight versus Drew Dober, he was way out in front, man. Like, he was beating the shit out of Dober, landing big shots, and kind of overdid it. And Dober didn't go away. And then Dober recovered. McKinney was clearly exhausted. He blew his entire wad. And he just got finished. And I think that's a healthy way to learn how to lose, because it wasn't a bad war where he took a lot of damage. It wasn't a wrestle fest in which you can't learn anything except that, like, well, I guess I don't know how to wrestle. It was a moment where he could have won a fight, clearly able to win that fight, and he just pulled the trigger too early. And I don't know if he really learned from that necessarily, because based off what I saw here, it's hard to tell. But I did feel like he was a little more reserved in this one, which was good. He did have he landed some really good shots on Gonzalez, and I didn't see him jump in willy-nilly. I mean, Gonzalez did land one good shot that sent McKinney a little bit back and made him recoil. But this first round was pretty much all McKinney, landing big shots, eventually gets him to the ground, and then Gonzalez was working his way back to his feet. McKinney jumps on his back and then hops in, puts the hooks in, and gets the standing rear naked choke. So really good finish for McKinney. I think, like I said, I think he has a really bright future in the UFC. He lost in the... Oh, that was a contender series. That doesn't count. I mean, it does count because it's a professional one, but his win over Frivola, Ziam, the way he fucked Dober up early, and then his win against Gonzalez, I think this kid's got a lot, and he called out Paddy the Batty. Yeah, he's been calling him out for a while because Paddy Pimblett's gotten a ton of attention, and McKinney has not.
Who isn't calling him out right now? Let's be real.
Yeah. It's
if you're anywhere near him in the rankings and you want a spotlight on you, that's who you're calling out.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense.
It's just like Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean O'Malley. It's very similar situation in which people think that he's beatable. People know that they can beat him, and they're calling him out because he does have a big name on him, and they don't want to get passed up by a guy in the rankings or for a title shot by a guy that they know they can beat. Now, whether or not they can beat him is, that's to be debated and shown, obviously, but that's what they're looking for and why they're doing that stuff. So I understand why people are calling out Paddy Pimblett. And I do agree with McKinney here. I think he can beat him.
That will be an interesting fight.
It's not happening. No way, man.
If it happens, that would be an interesting
No way. Paddy Pimblett. Dude, did Pimblett jump into the rankings?
I assume so. He's got him.
He's fighting at lightweight, right? Even though he was the featherweight champ. No, he's not in the rankings yet. Lightweight is a very deep division.
I mean, interesting.
Yeah, I think, dude, Paddy Pimblett's fun to watch. I love his build-up. I love the way. I love his energy. I love all the stuff about him. I think it's great. I think he's doing it in a relatively professional is not the word.
Fashion.
Well, intelligent, absolutely. But I'm trying to say it's not professional because he's saying stupid things, but he's not doing it in a vicious or disgusting way. It doesn't have that later McGregor stank on it that I don't like.
Yeah.
That's
why I mean it's professional chirping.
Yeah, it's professional fighting, so they're prize fighters. He's allowed to talk some shit. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
If you can't talk shit in prize fighting, where the fuck can you talk shit?
Yeah, he's not like going after people's family or like weird.
Nah. No, I like
personal days or stuff like that.
But McKinney looks really good.
It's above board shit talking.
Yeah. McKinney looked really good in this one. Sucks for Erick Gonzalez that he's just become someone else's highlight reel. But it is what it is. Erick Gonzalez now has 2 losses in the UFC, one to Jim Miller and then now to McKinney. So he's probably got... I mean, he's newer in his career. Obviously, he's not super old, but he's not a younger fighter. He's 30 years old. So
lightweight's a hard one to come back from once you start stringing losses together, though. That's
early
on in your career. That's rough.
He's probably got one more fight in the UFC to prove himself.
Yeah.
Plus, his name's the Ghost Pepper, so I mean, for whatever that means. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Tune in later for our nickname.
Oh my god. No, I have my favorites. I have them all in my Yeah, Andre Touchy Feely is up there, man. I love that one. It's
Yes.
perfect.
No, I'm I'm a huge judge of nicknames. That's one of the
Yes.
first things I look at.
Yeah,
All
blonde fighter's the fucking worst. We both agree that one.
Yeah. There's some bad ones.
Yeah. All right, that's it for the main card. Thank you guys for stopping by. If you made it through this whole video, subscribe to the channel because you're gonna like everything that I do, everything that we do. Every time that Nate's here, I'll give a special shout out every single time.
And I will be here more often.
Yay! And in person in a couple weeks, so I'm actually super excited about that. Thank you guys for stopping by. It means a lot to me. If this is the only video you watch this weekend, I appreciate it. It means the world to me. If you're looking for the prelims, they're on the next video. If you're looking for the PFL, it's in the last one. So go ahead and check out those. There's always the back catalog of all my old videos. Go check those out too. Thank you all so much. Love y'all. Have a great week.
Peace.